For 11 years, I have served as an emergency physician at St. Augustine Medical Center in Portland, Oregon, during which time I have officially declared 347 individuals deceased. The exact figure is etched in my private journal, a practice my therapist advocated early in my career to help navigate the profound emotional burden of the profession. Each entry meticulously records the date, time, patient's initials, cause of death, and a concise summary of the circumstances. While this chronicle is unsettling, it once aided me in compartmentalizing my professional duties from my personal life. Or so it seemed. I am Dr. Marcus Webb, and I am compelled to share this account because I must speak of Emma Reyes. The events of February 14, 2023, irrevocably reshaped my understanding of mortality, consciousness, and the precarious line between slumber and wakefulness. Emma passed away in my emergency department, and I pronounced her dead with unwavering certainty. Yet every night since, I am haunted by the sound of her breathing in my dreams. February 14th dawned uneventfully. Valentine's Day typically brings a lull to the emergency room as people are preoccupied with romance, dining, and festivities. Serious emergencies often surge later, post-midnight, once alcohol consumption and interpersonal disputes have had ample time to escalate. I had volunteered for the holiday shift for 5 consecutive years, partly due to my divorce and lack of romantic commitments, and partly because the overtime compensation is appealing. I arrived at 2 p.m. for my 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift. The day team was concluding their duties, managing a typical winter caseload, a few cases of influenza, a fractured wrist from an icy sidewalk, and a chest pain complaint that ultimately proved to be anxiety. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo briefed me during the shift handover. "Nothing exciting, nothing complicated," she assured me. "The department has 12 patients across 24 beds. We have excellent coverage, 3 attending physicians, 4 residents, 6 nurses, and respiratory therapy on standby. It should be a quiet night." Patricia gathered her belongings, adding with a wry smile, "Famous last words, I know. But seriously, it's dead out there." She winced at her choice of words, and we both shared a laugh. 11 years in emergency medicine teaches you to unearth humor in the darkest corners. The initial hours flowed seamlessly. I treated a 7-year-old with an ear infection whose parents had panicked over a fever spike. I consulted on a suspected appendicitis that turned out to be mere constipation. I splinted a dislocated finger for a man who, while fumbling with a ring box to propose to his girlfriend in the parking lot, had tripped and fallen. He was embarrassed but beaming, and she was shedding tears of joy. It was one of those fleeting moments of happiness that occasionally pierce the incessant chaos of emergency medicine. At 7:43 p.m., everything changed. The ambulance radio crackled, announcing an incoming trauma alert. "Female, mid-20s, unresponsive, found in bathtub by roommate. No pulse, not breathing. Estimated downtime unknown, but possibly significant." Paramedics initiated CPR 7 minutes prior. ETA 4 minutes. I felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the heightened focus that accompanies critical cases. I swiftly assigned tasks. Trauma Bay 3 ready. Respiratory therapy standing by for intubation. Lab prepared for immediate blood draw. Radiology notified for a portable chest X-ray. The team moved into position with practiced precision. 4 minutes later, the ambulance bay doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in a gurney, one performing chest compressions, the other manually ventilating the patient with a bag. Behind them, a young woman in pajama pants and a hoodie followed, her face stark with shock. "This is Emma Reyes, 26 years old," the lead paramedic announced, continuing his report without pausing compressions. "Roommate discovered her unresponsive in the bathtub approximately 20 minutes ago. Bathtub was full of water, temperature unknown. Roommate removed her, called 911. We arrived 12 minutes ago. Patient was asystolic, cold to touch, no respirations. We've been running the code for 15 minutes. 4 rounds of epinephrine, 2 of atropine. No change in rhythm, still asystolic." I observed the patient as we transferred her to our gurney. Emma Reyes was a petite woman, perhaps 5 feet 4 inches and 120 pounds. Her skin bore the waxy, bluish pallor of prolonged submersion and cardiac arrest. Her lips were purple, and her eyes were half open, pupils fixed and dilated. Her wet hair clung to her face and neck. She was clad in a tank top and underwear. Her roommate had apparently removed her soaked pajamas before the paramedics arrived. "The roommate is here," a nurse informed me, indicating the young woman hovering near the door. "Says her name is Sofia Martinez." "Please escort her to the family waiting room," I instructed, "and notify social services." As the team swarmed Emma with synchronized efficiency, I conducted my initial assessment. I placed my stethoscope on her chest. No heart sounds, no breath sounds, despite the bag valve mask ventilations. Her skin was frigid, refrigerator cold. I checked her pupils. Fixed, dilated, no light reflex. I palpated her carotid artery for a pulse. Nothing. "Continue compressions," I commanded. "Let's get her on the monitor. I need a temperature and warming blankets. Prepare for intubation." One of the residents affixed EKG leads to her chest. The monitor displayed precisely what I anticipated: a flat green line, complete asystole, utterly devoid of electrical activity. "Core temp is 28.3 degrees Celsius, a nurse reported. "That's 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Severe hypothermia." The bathtub water must have been cold, possibly ice cold. Hypothermia can offer neuroprotection during cardiac arrest and potentially extend the window for successful resuscitation, but it also renders resuscitation exceedingly challenging. The old adage in emergency medicine holds true: nobody's dead until they're warm and dead. "Another round of epi," I directed. "Let's initiate the warming protocol. I want heated IV fluids, warming blankets, and heated humidified oxygen." We persisted with the code: chest compressions, medications, warming measures. I intubated her, guiding the endotracheal tube into her trachea and securing her airway. The respiratory therapist connected her to the ventilator. We infused warmed saline through her IV lines and enveloped her with specialized blankets that circulated heated air. Minutes crawled by. 5, 10, 15, 20. Emma's core temperature incrementally rose. 28.5 degrees Celsius, 29.0 degrees Celsius, 29.8 degrees Celsius. Yet her heart remained silent. The monitor unwaveringly displayed a flat line. There was no pulse, no spontaneous respirations. Her pupils stayed fixed and dilated. At the 30-minute mark, I made a decision I had made countless times before, never effortlessly. "Hold compressions," I announced. "Rhythm check." The team stepped back, and we all watched the monitor. A perfect flat line. I placed my fingers on Emma's carotid artery. No pulse. I listened to her chest with my stethoscope. No heart sounds. "Resume compressions," I said. "Another round of EPI." But I knew, and we all knew. We had been running the code for a total of 37 minutes, 15 by paramedics, 22 by us. Emma had been unresponsive for at least 45 minutes, likely longer. Her temperature was still perilously low. Despite aggressive resuscitation, she exhibited no cardiac activity. The probability of a meaningful recovery was virtually nil. Still, we persevered. Hypothermia grants extra time. Cases exist of individuals drowning in ice water, being unresponsive for an hour, and achieving full recovery. Although I had never personally witnessed such an instance, I had perused the case reports. So we pushed forward. We fought. At the 50-minute mark, Emma's temperature reached 32 degrees Celsius, 89.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Still hypothermic, but approaching the range where cardiac function might return if it were going to. "Hold compressions," I instructed. "Rhythm check." We paused. The monitor showed a flat line. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. No cardiac activity, no response to any of our interventions. "Time?" I asked. 8:37 p.m., the scribe replied. I surveyed the team. We had executed every step correctly. We had adhered to protocols, even pushing beyond standard stopping points due to the hypothermia. But Emma was gone. She had been deceased when the paramedics arrived. We had been striving to resurrect her for nearly an hour, and sometimes resurrection simply isn't an option. "I'm calling it," I stated softly. "Time of death, 8:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts." The team retreated from the gurney. The respiratory therapist disconnected the ventilator, but, as per protocol, left the endotracheal tube in place. The nurses commenced the somber task of removing lines and leads, documenting administered medications, and preparing the body for transfer to the morgue. I stripped off my gloves and inhaled deeply. This transition, from battling for life to acknowledging death, never becomes easier. I had paperwork to complete. I needed to speak with Sofia Martinez, Emma's roommate, and notify the medical examiner. But first, I required a moment. I walked to the staff bathroom, washed my hands, and splashed water on my face. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. 11 years, 347 deaths. Now 348. I dried my hands and sought out Sophia. She was in the family waiting room, hunched in a chair, a social worker beside her. Sophia looked up as I entered, and in her eyes I saw that she already knew. "I'm Dr. Webb," I began, sitting opposite her. "I am very sorry, but despite our utmost efforts, we were unable to resuscitate Emma. She has passed away." Sophia emitted a sound, half gasp, half sob. "She was just in the bathtub. She takes baths every night. I went to check on her because she'd been in there over an hour." Her voice fractured. "Can you tell me what happened when you found her?" I asked gently. Sophia wiped her eyes, struggling for composure. "I knocked on the door around 7:15. Emma didn't answer. The door was locked from inside." I got worried because she'd been weird lately, stressed about work, not sleeping well. I used a credit card to pop the lock. It's an old apartment, easy locks, and she was just under the water, face down, not moving. "How full was the bathtub?" I inquired. "Full all the way, and the water was cold, ice cold." I don't know how long she'd been in there. Did Emma grapple with any medical conditions, such as depression or suicidal thoughts? Sophia shook her head in response. "No," she replied. "I mean, she was under a lot of pressure. She's a freelance graphic designer, and she'd been clocking in insane hours on a significant project. But she certainly wasn't suicidal. In fact, she was enthusiastic about the project and had made arrangements for a trip next week to visit her mother in Arizona. This truly makes no sense. It rarely does, I mused. But sometimes people drown in bathtubs. Sometimes they fall asleep, slip beneath the surface, and never reawaken. Sometimes they suffer strokes or seizures, and sometimes there's simply no satisfying explanation. The medical examiner will conduct an investigation, I assured her. They'll endeavor to ascertain what transpired. I am profoundly sorry for your loss. I left Sophia with the social worker and returned to the emergency department. The trauma bay had already been meticulously cleaned. Emma's body had been transferred to a gurney and wheeled to our morgue, a small, chilly room nestled in the basement. I diligently completed my paperwork, documenting every detail: times, interventions, medications, and my final assessment. I then contacted the medical examiner's office to report the case: an unattended death, a young woman discovered in a bathtub. They would dispatch someone in the morning to retrieve the body. By 10 p.m., I had already moved on to other patients: a kidney stone, a diabetic with dangerously low blood sugar, an acute asthma exacerbation. The emergency department never pauses for death. There is always another patient, another crisis, another opportunity to render aid. Yet a disquieting sensation lingered. I couldn't quite articulate it, just a persistent nagging at the periphery of my awareness, akin to forgetting something crucial but being unable to recall what it was. At 11:30 p.m., as I was suturing a scalp laceration in exam room 7, Jennifer Park, one of the nurses, appeared in the doorway. "Dr. Webb, could you please come to the morgue? There's something peculiar." I tied off the final suture and followed Jennifer. We took the service elevator down to the basement. The morgue was a compact, cold room featuring 4 refrigerated compartments built into the wall. Emma's body occupied compartment 2. "What seems to be the problem?" I inquired. Jennifer appeared uncomfortable. "I was down here conducting inventory, and I heard something from compartment 2, like breathing sounds." A chill, entirely unrelated to the room's temperature, permeated me. Breathing sounds from a corpse. "I know how it sounds," she continued, "but I distinctly heard it twice. Just these slow, wet breaths." Bodies do emit sounds after death. Gases escape, tissues settle. I had heard it before, but Jennifer was a nurse with 15 years of experience. She understood the distinction between post-mortem sounds and actual respirations. I approached compartment 2 and opened it. Cold air washed over me. Emma's body lay on the shelf, covered by a white sheet. I drew back the sheet. Her face was serene, skin still pale but no longer bluish. We had warmed her before transfer. Her eyes were closed, and the endotracheal tube still protruded from her mouth. I placed my fingers on her carotid artery. No pulse. I positioned my stethoscope on her chest. No heart sounds. I listened for several seconds, concentrating intently. And then I heard it. A breath. Slow, wet, rattling. Air moving through the endotracheal tube. I recoiled as if shocked. "You heard it," Jennifer stated, leaving no room for question. I forced myself to regain composure, to engage in clinical thought. There had to be an explanation. Post-mortem gas movement. Passive exhalation from air trapped in the lungs during transfer. Something. I placed my stethoscope on Emma's chest again and listened intently. Nothing. No sounds. No movement. I waited. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30. Then another breath, distinct and unmistakable. Air entering the lungs through the endotracheal tube. "Check her pupils," I instructed Jennifer, my voice tight. Jennifer produced a penlight from her pocket and gently lifted Emma's eyelids. The pupils were now mid-sized, not fixed and dilated as they had been before. Jennifer shone the light, and the pupils constricted. "Jesus Christ," Jennifer whispered. My mind raced. Pupillary response indicated brainstem function. Breathing sounds signified respiratory effort, but I had pronounced her dead. I had checked for a pulse, for heart sounds, for any signs of life. She had been dead for 3 hours. "Get the portable monitor," I commanded, "and the crash cart, now." Jennifer ran. I kept my stethoscope on Emma's chest, listening desperately for heart sounds. I heard another breath, slow and deep, but no cardiac activity. Jennifer returned with a portable cardiac monitor and a defibrillator. We attached the leads to Emma's chest. The monitor displayed sinus bradycardia, a heart rate of 40 beats per minute. Slow, but present. "That's impossible," I declared. I checked her twice. No pulse, no cardiac activity. "She's alive," Jennifer said, her voice trembling. "Dr. Webb, she's alive." I placed my fingers on Emma's carotid artery again. This time I felt it, weak, thready, yet present. A pulse. "Call upstairs," I instructed. "Tell ICU we're bringing up a patient. Tell them—" I paused. What could I tell them? That a corpse had returned to life? "Tell them we have a hypothermic near drowning with return of spontaneous circulation. We require critical care immediately." We wheeled Emma back upstairs. The ICU team met us with controlled alarm. I delivered the impossible report. "Pronounced dead at 8:37 p.m. Found breathing at 11:30 p.m. Pupils reactive, heart rate 40, spontaneous respirations through the ET tube." Dr. Sarah Kaplan, the intensivist, examined Emma with clinical precision. "Core temperature," she noted. "Haven't checked since we brought her down, but she was 32 Celsius at the time of death." "Lazarus syndrome," Dr. Kaplan posited. "Autoresuscitation after termination of CPR. Rare, but documented in hypothermic patients. Pressure changes in the thorax after we cease compressions can sometimes restart the heart." I had read about Lazarus syndrome, cases of patients who spontaneously regained cardiac function after resuscitation efforts had been terminated. It usually occurred within minutes of calling the code, not 3 hours later. 3 hours is unprecedented," I stated. "I've never heard of a case with this delay." "Neither have I," she admitted. "But she's alive now, so we treat her. Let's get full labs, repeat imaging, and EEG to assess brain function. Keep her sedated and on the ventilator. We'll warm her slowly and observe what we're dealing with." Over the next 6 hours, Emma Reyes stabilized. Her temperature rose to 35 Celsius, then 36. Her heart rate increased to 65. Her blood pressure improved to 110/70. Lab work indicated some metabolic derangement from the prolonged arrest, but nothing catastrophic. A CT scan of her brain showed no obvious bleeding or structural damage. At 6 a.m., as my shift drew to a close, I checked on Emma one final time. She lay in the ICU bed, intubated, sedated, surrounded by monitors. Alive. Impossibly alive. Dr. Kaplan pulled me aside. "The EEG shows some activity. Not normal, but not brain death. We're going to attempt lightning sedation later today to see if she exhibits any neurological response." "What do you think happened?" I inquired. Honestly, I don't know, she confessed. The hypothermia must have protected her brain somehow. The cold slowed her metabolism to almost nothing. Perhaps her heart was beating so faintly we couldn't detect it. Perhaps the cardiac activity was present but below our ability to measure. 3 hours seems impossible, but she's here, she's alive, so obviously it's possible. I drove home in a daze. I had pronounced Emma dead with absolute certainty. I had meticulously documented her death, informed the medical examiner, and told her roommate she was gone. And now, she was alive. I should have felt relieved, joyous. A patient I'd considered lost was alive. Instead, I felt unsettled. A profound sense of wrongness, as if something fundamental about reality had irrevocably shifted. I arrived home, showered, and collapsed into bed. I was utterly exhausted, physically and emotionally drained. I fell asleep quickly, and that's when the dreams began. In my dream, I was back in Trauma Bay 3. Emma was on the gurney, and we were running the code. But something was different. The team was present, yet they were motionless, frozen like statues, their hands poised mid-action. The monitors were silent. The usual chaos of resuscitation had been supplanted by an oppressive, perfect stillness. Only Emma moved. Her chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate breaths. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, and she was breathing. I could hear it distinctly, wet, rattling breaths that echoed in the silent room. I tried to speak, but no sound escaped. I tried to move, but my body refused to obey. I could only stand there, watching Emma breathe. Then her eyes moved. They didn't track. They simply shifted, like security cameras on a fixed pivot, until they locked onto me. Her mouth opened. The endotracheal tube was gone, though I hadn't witnessed its removal. "You pronounced me dead," she said. Her voice was wet, gurgly, like speaking through water. I tried to respond, to explain, to apologize. Nothing. "You were wrong," Emma asserted. "I was still there. I heard everything. I felt everything. The compressions, the electricity, the cold. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. But I was there." Her hand lifted from the gurney, reaching toward me. "You left me there," she accused, "in the cold, in the dark, alone." I woke up gasping, my heart pounding, the sheets soaked with sweat. I checked my phone. 2:37 p.m. I had slept for 6 hours. I got up, made coffee, and tried to shake off the dream. Just stress, just my mind processing the bizarre case. Nothing more. I returned to work that night. Emma was still in the ICU, still sedated, still on the ventilator. Dr. Kaplan informed me they had attempted lightning sedation, but Emma showed no response. No purposeful movement, no eye tracking, no reaction to stimuli. The EEG displayed persistent abnormal patterns. "We're giving her more time," Dr. Kaplan said. "But honestly, her chances of meaningful recovery are very low. That much downtime, even with hypothermia, the brain damage is likely severe." That night the dream returned. The same trauma bay, the same frozen team. But this time, Emma was sitting up on the gurney. Still encumbered by the intubation tube, she managed to speak around it, her voice filled with a haunting query. "Do you comprehend what it's like to be aware but paralyzed? To endure agony but be unable to scream? To realize death is imminent, yet be powerless to prevent it? I attempted a response, but my voice remained absent.
"You ceased your efforts,"
Emma accused.
"You abandoned me."
You declared me deceased while I was still present, still struggling, still fighting for breath. I verified. I tried to utter, "I checked for a pulse. There was nothing." But the words wouldn't emerge. In that dream, I was voiceless. Emma then gracefully dismounted the gurney and advanced towards me, her movements disquietingly erratic, reminiscent of a marionette ensnared in tangled cords.
"You condemned me to the cold,"
she articulated, "and now I am perpetually cold." Her icy fingers, searing in their frigidity, grazed my arm. I struggled to recoil, but my body wouldn't obey. "You will never truly forget me," Emma declared. "Each night you will perceive my breathing. Each night the memory will return." I awoke with a scream. This cycle persisted for weeks. Every time I succumbed to sleep, Emma haunted my dreams. The specifics varied, yet the core elements remained consistent. The frigid trauma bay, Emma, conscious and accusatory, her chilling touch, her moist, rasping inhalations. During the day, I maintained a semblance of normalcy, fulfilling my shifts, attending to patients, and upholding my professional demeanor. However, exhaustion became my constant companion. I began relying on sleeping pills, but they offered no reprieve from the dreams. Indeed, they seemed to amplify their vividness and intensity. Emma lingered in the ICU for 2 weeks, never regaining consciousness. Neurologists conducted extensive tests, confirming our shared suspicion: a severe anoxic brain injury. Her brain had been deprived of oxygen for an unbearable duration. Although her body persevered, her mind had vanished. Sophia Martinez made the anguishing decision to withdraw life support. Emma had no advance directives or living will, but Sophia, as her healthcare proxy, understood Emma's aversion to a vegetative existence. On March 2nd, 2023, we removed Emma's breathing tube. Sophia clutched Emma's hand, while I remained in the doorway, observing from a distance. Having already pronounced Emma dead once, I couldn't bear to do so again. Emma's breathing gradually diminished. 5 breaths per minute, then 4, 3, 2, until it finally ceased. This time, her demise was permanent. Dr. Kaplan officially pronounced her at 3:47 p.m. Sophia wept. The nurses silently attended to their tasks. Emma's body was transported to the morgue, awaiting the funeral home. I harbored the hope that Emma's ultimate death would put an end to the dreams. It did not. That night, the trauma bay reappeared in my dream. But upon my entry, Emma's gurney was vacant. The sheet lay disheveled, the monitors dark. A sound of breathing behind me. I spun around. Emma stood in the room's corner, silhouetted by the fluorescent lights. She wore the tank top and underwear from her initial death. "You did it once more," she accused. "You allowed me to die again." "We tried," I responded, my voice miraculously present in this dream. "We exhausted every option." "You revived me," Emma rejoined, advancing towards me. "You restored me to a shattered body. You brought me back to torment, bewilderment, and obscurity. And then you released me." "You were brain dead." "There was nothing," I countered. "I was there," Emma interjected. "In the darkness, in the silence. I was there and I experienced it.
I felt them disengage the machines. I felt my lungs gasping for air. I felt myself drowning again, drowning within my own body. She was perilously close now. Her scent, a blend of hospital chemicals and something cold and stagnant, permeated the air. "This is your culpability," Emma declared. "You deemed me dead. You were mistaken. And now I cannot cease dying." Her hand reached for me. I awoke. This torment has persisted for 9 months. Emma Reyes haunts my dreams every single night. The dreams have grown more intricate, more psychologically complex. Sometimes I'm performing the initial resuscitation, but my movements are agonizingly slow, rendering me incapable of saving her. Other times I'm in the morgue, and Emma sits up from her shelf, questioning why I abandoned her to the cold. There are even dreams where I attend her funeral, and as the casket opens, she's breathing. Always breathing. That damp, rattling sound of air traversing lifeless lungs. I've sought help from 3 different therapists, attempting CBT, EMDR, and hypnotherapy. I've experimented with various sleeping pills, altered my sleep schedule, used white noise machines, and meditation apps. Nothing silences the dreams. The case has consumed me. I've meticulously reviewed the medical examiner's report dozens of times. Emma's cause of death was officially listed as drowning. Toxicology yielded no signs of drugs or alcohol. There was no evidence of trauma or foul play. The ME concluded accidental death, likely falling asleep in the bathtub and submerging. Yet I cannot let it go. I've devoured every case report concerning Lazarus syndrome, hypothermic cardiac arrest, and delayed return of spontaneous circulation. The longest documented delay I found is 45 minutes. Emma's was 3 hours. I've attempted to contact Sophia Martinez, hoping a conversation might offer some closure, but her number is disconnected, and her social media accounts are gone. She moved out of Portland, a mutual acquaintance informed me, returning to California to be with family, escaping too many painful memories. I've begun making errors at work, minor ones so far. I ordered the wrong imaging study for a patient. I overlooked a subtle fracture on an X-ray that the radiologist identified. I've had to apologize to 2 patients for my inattentiveness during their care. My colleagues have noticed. Dr. Okonkwo approached me last week, asking, "Marcus, are you all right? You seem off, fatigued, distracted." I assured her I was fine, blaming insomnia and claiming I was addressing it with my doctor. But I'm not fine. I'm deteriorating. The lack of sleep is eroding my cognitive abilities, my judgment, my capacity to function. I recognize the necessity of taking a leave of absence to step back from clinical work until this is resolved. But I can't, because the moment I cease working, the moment I lack daytime distractions, the dreams will infiltrate my waking hours. I am unequivocally certain of this. Last night's dream was the most harrowing yet. I was in my own bed, in my own apartment. I awoke, or dreamed I awoke, to Emma standing at the foot of my bed. "You cannot escape me," she declared. "I am now lodged in your mind. Every time you close your eyes, I will be present. Every time you sleep, you will perceive my breathing." "What do you desire?" I inquired. "What must I do to make this cease?" Emma inclined her head. "You pronounced me dead. You were mistaken. You must confess your error." "I was wrong," I conceded. "I apologize. I checked, and I thought—" "Not to me," Emma interrupted. to everyone. Inform everyone of your actions. Tell everyone you killed me.
I did not kill you.
You abandoned me.
You ceased trying. That is equivalent.
I adhered to every protocol. I performed every...
Emma's countenance contorted. Her eyes widened, her mouth impossibly agape.
You abandoned me in the cold,
she shrieked, the sound so deafening it seemed to originate from within my skull. I awoke, actually screaming. My neighbors hammered on the wall. I am writing this now because I have exhausted all other avenues. Perhaps documenting it will offer some relief. Perhaps articulating it all will somehow exorcise it from my mind. But I suspect it won't. Because here is my realization, the truth I have resisted acknowledging. I don't believe Emma is haunting me. I do not subscribe to ghosts, vengeful spirits, or supernatural retribution. Rather, I believe my own guilt is my tormentor. Because when I first declared Emma dead, when I called the code at 8:37 p.m., I felt relief. I was weary. It had been an arduous resuscitation, and I desired its conclusion. I yearned to move on to the next patient, to clear the trauma bay, to avoid the emotional burden of a young woman's death on Valentine's Day. I checked for a pulse, but did I check meticulously enough? I listened for heart sounds, but did I listen for a sufficient duration? Her hypothermia made everything more challenging to detect. What if I had waited an additional 30 seconds? What if I had been more thorough? I pronounced her dead because I wished her to be dead. Not out of malice or ill will, but because I wanted the case to be closed. I desired the burden to be lifted. I yearned for it to be over. And when she returned, when we discovered her breathing 3 hours later, it unequivocally proved my error. That I had made a catastrophic mistake. That somewhere amidst my exhaustion and my eagerness for the case to conclude, I had failed. I resurrected her to a body incapable of sustaining consciousness. I resurrected her to brain damage and inevitable death. If I had never pronounced her dead, if we had maintained monitoring, kept trying, would she have recovered? Would her brain have had the opportunity to heal, shielded by hypothermia? I will never know. And that is the message of the dreams. That is what Emma's voice whispers in my head every night. You were wrong. You gave up. And because of that, I died twice. I am scheduled to see my therapist again tomorrow. I will divulge everything, including my recent contemplations about whether I should continue practicing medicine. How can I trust my judgment when I've committed such a devastating error? How can I pronounce another patient dead when I know I was previously mistaken? Yet, even as I commit these words to paper, I foresee tonight's events. I will attempt sleep. Perhaps I'll take pills. Perhaps not. It is inconsequential, for as soon as my eyes close, I will find myself back in that trauma bay. The team will be motionless, and Emma will be there, seated on the gurney, her vacant eyes fixed upon me. And she will be breathing that slow, wet, rattling breath that will echo in my mind for eternity. I just heard it now, in fact, just now, as I write this, a breath behind me in my empty apartment. But when I turn, there is nothing. There is never anything there, except in my dreams, where Emma Reyes breathes forever. I am perpetually caught between the inability to rescue her and the impossibility of releasing her. Throughout my professional life, I have declared 348 individuals deceased. Of those, 347 remained gone. Yet Emma Reyes, night after agonizing night, continues to perish anew in my mind. I'm at a loss as to how to accomplish it.